close the distance. But the issue that I'm having, Dan speaks about the damage the Snipedrone is able to put down. Now, you can put together different rosters and you can have players that do a lot of damage, but they don't necessarily have the players around them to clean up those kills and maybe capitalize on that damage that you're putting down. But what he has here, what Snipedrone has, is 3 guys that will run in, like Dan says, lunatics, headless chickens into every single gunfight. And the problem is that Quadrant haven't been able to set any traps for them, at least not yet.
You know, go hand in hand by being an in-game leader and getting the slays. This team is going to be so terrifying. Quadrant looked so good in Rally, and they were just upset, of course, by Na'Vi in the end. They finished top 12, but they had some amazing performances against some of the best North American teams. But Recharge, Strongholds is where we start things off, just as we did last week between these two teams. Quadrant started really well, Shyway, so I'm hoping they'll find that same starting strategy. It's something that Acend have been lacking, is quick, fast-paced starts. Ascend's starting strategies don't seem to be the same as the rest of Europe.
Yeah, I think you said it perfectly. Quadrant, they come together, they could be terrifying. So I hope they frighten me. Let's get into this. We got Shaady to kick things off. A couple shots into Fragxr cross map here. Look at all the bodies bottom mid to contest that camo. I think Quadrant had the advantage on it. We'll see if somebody's walked away with it. Either way, we've got a B-side cap and pressure on the Seattle SLG, who's already pulling out the tech. What did I say? At a SLG, I wanted to see some of the nerdy plays, the tech out of him. You'll hit the curb, slide straight to C for the rotation.
But it's the same again. It's the starting strategy for Quadrant here. Ascend, they just weren't able to get the camouflage. They lost out to Quadrant. And because of that, the early kind of domination and control went inside of the blue team, which is going to be Quadrant. I know there's not that many points on the board just yet, but it's about map control. It's about where they're able to position themselves now. You can see they keep flipping between A and C, waiting to see where Ascend spawn, and then they transition to the other one, get them on the slays, and then they'll go back. And there's trip cap for Quadrant. Wow. So once more, just like last week, they're dominating right from the get-go.
Early on, under pressure, but like you said, we've seen this before. When does Ascend wake up, and can Quadrant shut them down if they do? Either way, still up to SLG here. Teammates already pushing up on A. He will go down. That Shaady and Lqgend with 2 on the feed there. Lqgend with an opportunity for A. He's got his teammate Snipedrone in B as well, so they will look to turn the captures. And the first points on the board going to be on Ascend, finally, at 48 already for a Quadrant. So nice to see some control out of them, but this is it. They're starting to pick up. I can see the teamwork coming in. We got 3 dead on the feed, 1 more left to pick up.
It's not something you see very often as well. You get a trip cap on the other team. Usually it's the other kind of team who's struggling. They'll scramble to A, they'll scramble to C, they'll just stop the bleeding. Ascend, they just killed all of Quadrant and got a trip cap of their own. They said, no, we're not going to allow this to happen again. We're not going to fall too far behind. And just like that, they are pretty much on even score now, going for another trip cap. Ascend being relentless, and Quadrant would have probably been feeling so confident after their start. But if this camouflage now goes into the hand of Ascend, this is starting to look scary. This is starting to just be a repeat process of what happened before.
If anything, a little bit worse, right? Because Quadrant held on to dominance for a while in that first game last week. But now things are looking a little different. Camo still on board with Sica, assuming the main survives with it. Got the Mangler combo to work with as well, but can't stay up. Nice little pinch coming in from SLG. That's NURIX with a kill too. So shut down temporarily there for Quadrant, and they'll stop Ascend in their tracks and try to get some progress onto B here as well. SLG will take a clean kill for it. It looks like he will stay up for that, but such a rough spot to be in. Look how he plays the corner here too. Just peeking his way in and out of fights to stay up. Great play here.
Shows great confidence there from SLG. A lot of people would just kind of hide behind those batteries and hope that they don't get hit by a grenade. But he knew that if he just allowed the player to throw that grenade, he was going to be vulnerable. So instead, he showed a little bit of presence. He had a little bit of a dance behind the pillar. And instead, he put down those shots. He helped his teammates. He provided those call-outs. And that's the kind of aggression and confidence you need from players. Otherwise, you are just going to be rolling over, showing your belly, and the other team is going to take full advantage of that. But this does seem like it's going to be quite the game. This is what we wanted, right? We wanted a close, contested game between these two teams. We don't want it to just be an easy 2-0 for Ascend. Quadrant, they need to show up at some point and try and take down this mammoth roster that is Ascend.
Can't complain about a brawl, game 1, that's for sure. On board with Fragxr. He's just pestering them from the corners here. Does spot 1. Does not want to commit to it just yet. Can he help out his teammate, though? We got Camo coming up 20 seconds. Still out from bottom mid here. Snipedrone spots him. There's a little drop combo coming in, but if you're caught in the middle of the map like that, not too much you can do. It's a nice little pinch here for Ascend. They continue to hold on to 2 caps, 107 and counting. And TchiK knows to back down here. You can see the pinch coming in, though. Ascend, they're so quick with their rotation, and the timing is perfect as well. We got Camo coming up shortly.
And something that Shazy brought up just before we got into this game was how Acend are very good at mopping up kills, and you can see that now for Shaady. He's got no assists, but he's got 12 kills on the board, and you know full well that the rest of the team are putting damage in for him. They're calling it out, and Shaady has just been running around the map like the lunatic that he is, and he's been picking up kill after kill after kill, as yet again a trip cap is here for Acend. Quadrant are going to try and match it by taking A with their spawn, but what worries me, Shyway, is last week we saw 133 points go unmatched for Acend, and knowing that they can do that, I think Quadrant have to try and stay on top of this roster. They can't allow these trip caps to come through.
Yeah, I can try to play devil's advocate with you just a little bit and say that if you are dominating in the early game and then all of a sudden the switch flips and you start getting dominated, it can really affect the mental. In Quadrant's position, actually, you know what? They're all dead in their position. That's a triple out of Sica. Here I am trying to boost up Quadrant's confidence here, but just fighting from the back foot, if anything, you know, from the beginning of the game, I think you've got maybe more potential to pick up confidence as you go rather than losing the momentum you had early on. Either way, it's, you know, Acend, they're doing work.
Well, SLG confidently taking that challenge, and elsewhere, Snipedrone just picked up an overkill as well with the sword onto SLG for his final kill. So after an almost overkill from Acend in one situation, on the other side of the map, it happens again, and it's Snipedrone who actually picks it up this time. So that's back-to-back, all four dead. Quadrant on the back foot. It's trip cap still, and the points are starting to rack up. This is starting to look a little bit ugly for Quadrant.
Yeah, I take back everything I said. This is looking brutal. Acend are completely on top of game one here. Quadrant, they need an answer. And Shaady, you can just tell from his movement, the man's feeling confident. Has those nades in cross map, couple shots up top to red. Snipedrone picks it up. Trip cap in session as they try to get to C, but Shady's already on top of it. Nice sneaky flank from below here. Looks like he's going to take the long route. And they've got time to do it. 2:37 and counting here. Shaady can take all the time he wants to get back into C. Quadrant, if they don't have an answer immediately, it's a GG.
Well, I spoke about the 133 points that went unmatched. Quadrant have got to do something similar on the flip side here to even get back into this game, let alone win it. Whereas if we see Acend get control one more time, you'd have to imagine that's going to be all she wrote. B's being taken, C though is being contested, so Quadrant keeping in it for now. But this is so close to being game over. Quadrant have to play perfect Halo. I know it's a cliche, we say it all the time, but literally they can't afford any mistakes now.
What can TchiK do? Unfortunately, they're just... Actually, you know what I think he did is just burned out the repulsor before he picked it up. Either way, gonna have to do a lot more than that. Just trying to hold on to B here. Contention coming in. They probably know he's here. Can he sneak up and take one? He can. Almost killing himself with the nade, but unfortunately he will drop. 241 at this point, though. 2 caps. A and B on board. 6 seconds to close it. They got to jump into a hill. And can they get there in time? This doesn't look likely at this point. 250 will hit. And Acend will go through in game one with a dominant performance I don't think we could have expected, Gaskin.
I mean, we were saying that maybe Quadrant are going to improve from last week, but actually it's a worse off scoreline for them, and it is very much even more one-sided. It was a great start, again, for Quadrant. They've got a good starting strategy. They're able to get the trip cap, but I think sometimes when you poke the bear, and the bear is going to be Acend, they come back with their claws and they start swiping at you, and it's, you know what, we almost had back-to-back overkills from Acend. It was a triple kill, then a cleanup, and then Snipedrone picked up an overkill himself. When that happens, when there's that much domination on the map that you're not even able to get one kill on the other team, you just give away so many points, you give up so much control. Acend had everything, and Quadrant, unfortunately, they just crumbled.
It's funny because I spent all that time saying, watch out for Lqgend. Turns out it's Sica who gets the triple kill. Snipedrone's popping off. You got Shaady, you know, doing work the whole game with the sword as well. And then I put all that focus onto SLG, picking up slays. Look what he did. He listened to me. 18 kills. Look what his team did. His entire team couldn't go positive. So I'm not sure if I don't know if I created this, Gaskin. Maybe it's my fault, but
this is the thing. Like, I mean, obviously we can only speculate, right? But SLG's slays pick up, but the rest of the team as a whole, they start to show some flaws, some weaknesses. Is SLG putting more of his mental into getting those slays and being individually good rather than focusing on controlling the team and getting the team to play in a way? Of course, I'm only speculating. We can't see what's necessarily happening from every POV, but it is weird, isn't it, that, you know, when SLG starts to perform a little bit better, the rest of the team just seems to fall off, and that's a surprise for me. You'd expect them to all just mold around him, but it didn't really work out in that game. And I think part of it comes down to Acend doing Acend things, right? You've got Sica getting the triple. Elsewhere, you had the overkill from Snipedrone. If they're individually that talented, if they are picking up multi-kills like that, you know they're confident and you know they're hitting the shot.
And then on the flip side, there's got to be some sort of a lack of chemistry on Quadrant right now early on. Unfortunately for them, they don't have a lot of time to figure out what that is and get it together. We're jumping right into Bazaar Slayer next, and just based off of what we saw last week, it was closely contested. But when you got a map full of all these power weapons in the center with the rockets, the shotgun, the dynamo nades, the OS, there's just so much to control. If you can't grab that stuff when it counts, curtains once again, especially off the confidence we saw from Acend in game 1 here. So Quadrant, they got to somehow regain, come out hot off the rip, but also be coordinated in those key timings when these weapons spawn.
I think what's worrying here is that Quadrant are looking like the 4th seed, right? Usually Quadrant have been the 2nd seed, and this has been our grand final. This has been our winners bracket final for weeks upon weeks, and then it changed after Rally because Quadrant, they dropped the 4th seed because of who was seeded elsewhere to 3rd seed, and they played Acend, who was 2nd seed as Na'Vi had overtaken them after their Rally performance. But now Acend back at number 1 seed, Quadrant dropped to number 4, and with the difference that we've just seen between those two teams, it looks like 1st versus 4th. It has to be said. It doesn't look like 1st versus 2nd. So something's got to change. It has to change now here in Bazaar Slayer.
We'll kick things off with Sica once again. I mean, who else but him? Actually, it's Shaady. I take it back, and I can't complain about it. We got the rockets up still on the map here, but Shaady wants the kill first, assuming he can get it. Snipedrone grabs it, and an opportunity for Acend and early power weapon control. And this is the worry. I mean, you look at the scoreboard, 4-1. Rockets in the hands of Shaady here. And Lqgend's got the Shaady. They're already getting kills on the feet here. They haven't stopped. Gaskin, they're taking the momentum directly into game 2.
Crazy, really. Especially when I said that Acend usually are quite slow to start and their starting strategies aren't always there. And that is one of their downfalls. It seems like they've picked it up here on Bazaar Slayer, and arguably one of the most important maps to have a good starting strategy because of how much you can control from the get-go. But a few kills do go in favor of Quadrant. They managed to make it at least 9-5. But you've got to be careful here. You can't allow Acend to have too much map control, too much presence. And we know full well Snipedrone is going to be sitting somewhere just railing damage from a distance.
Picking up a couple trades at that deficit, considering the fact that Acend, they had rockets, Shaady. I mean, not the worst case scenario for them, but still 10-5 on the board here. And I mean, Sica doing everything he can to just stay up with the shotgun and be a nuisance here in BR. Every nade seems to tag the man, but still gonna make it work. All while that happens, Lqgend with the kill on the feed as well. 13-5 now at this point. Lqgend center map. You got Snipedrone up in the locker. Nice little opportunity for map control here. As you can see, all the boys spawning up on one side. They're going to be pinched from multiple angles. I think there's a flank coming through from below as well. So you can see Acend starting to put it all together. And I only imagine it's a matter of time till this pops up on the feed.
Yeah, there's a great difference between the two teams at the moment. Quadrant kind of turtled up, trying to hold angles, trying to just shoot from a distance and deal damage, whereas Acend are looking to pinch, they're looking to push in, they're looking to try and get those slays. Now, it has benefited Quadrant. Their Quadrant stuck as a 3. They waited for the Acend push, and they were able to get a couple of kills on board, but trades aren't going to do them any good here. They're 17-8 down, and Overshield's just gone into the favor of Acend once more, and this is going to start to get out of control.
A little bit tragic. He was so close to picking it up, but the positioning out of his teammates here just to ensure Sica can walk away with a couple kills. He's got a double. He'll take another onto Fragxr. And back to spawn, the boys on Quadrant go. Now 21 points to their name. I mean, what do? This looks oppressive. They need to find an opportunity to jump in and pick up the next round of weapons. Yeah, and if they can't do it, I think it might be impossible.
They're being so aggressive as well, aren't they? Like Sica, they got 4 down there, and Sica straight away into the palm trees. He's looking for those spawns. He's trying to provide as much information as possible, even listening to audio cues. And okay, he's going to go down here, but, you know, is the damage already done? They're up by 14 kills. Quadrant 3 members down once more, and it could be all 4 dead again here if Shaady gets the kill. But Quadrant, they need to slow it down, but they can't slow it down, because as soon as they take angles, Acend are just pushing in, they're flanking, they're communicating, and everything's looking... Well, if you're a Quadrant fan, I mean, you might want to turn your screens off soon.
Shady's so aware of timing there. He actually skipped the grapple to rotate underneath just to make sure he was in a good position to flank on time. And all while that happens, Lqgend, of course, putting in work with the rockets, going to dive up in on the NURIX, clean up onto him. I mean, we've said it multiple times here, but with 30-12 on the board, I mean, it's looking rough. It's looking gross at this point for Acend. If this is how they're playing today, like, what do? You know, the Quadrant's a top 2 team, top 3 at the least, I would say. And they're just being obliterated.
Someone needs to match the pace of which Acend play. How often do we see Bazaar Slayer be a standoff? 2 teams either side, dealing damage from a distance, then trying to get the advantage of a player being down, and then you push. It's not the case for Acend. They're running around like this is a matchmaking game. Like they're playing some guys who are still in Diamond, and they're all high Onyx ranks. Because right now, Quadrant do not look like they can even compete with Acend. And I don't think I would ever say those words, considering how these 2 teams have been the best 2 teams in Europe in online performances, as another Overshield goes to Acend.
every single week I witness these boys, they look better. They just look better and better every time. I don't know what else to say about it. All the movement they're hitting right here. Shaady just, he's hitting it all so clean. He can't be stopped. He'll take the trade there, but 39 at this point, 40. Like you said, it's the confidence. They're playing it like it's a matchmaking game. They've got full confidence coming in here and no worry whatsoever that they'll be countered. And it's just so blatantly obvious at this point that the only way to stop it is to shut them down at their own game, to out 1v1 them, and it just seems impossible.
I mean, at this point, it's stop. They're already dead. This is just one of those things where it's painful to watch. You just want it to be over. You want the 50 kill mark to arrive so that Quadrant can move to the lower bracket, rethink their strategy, and worry about Acend at a later time and just focus on other matchups because they have been outclassed here by a massive difference. And that's not good news because they were the closest competitors to Acend for quite some time in online competition, but maybe the gap is starting to be even bigger between these two.
Starting to look that way. And it starts to make me think, you know, where does Navi sit in this? Where do the lads sit in this? Some of these teams that we're still kind of waiting on that still have potential. And not to say it's over for Quadrant. They could definitely come back. But, I mean, at this point with this scoreline, it's... no, not in this game. I mean, they could come back later in the tournament. This is over. There is no comeback here. 48-23. I mean, this is definitely a stake. Well done. But, you know, I'm still holding out hope that Quadrant can reset and regain once they drop in the lower bracket. And maybe think about what just, or don't think about what just happened. Just focus on the next match because, man, you don't want to look back at that one.